Welcome everybody to part two of today's three-part discussion. Again, my name is Mitch Meyer with a company called Broadly. We are prime sponsor today, and just as I mentioned earlier, Broadly is a customer engagement platform helping small businesses kind of capitalize on the feedback that they're looking for from their customers. I'm happy to provide some more information, but I don't want to take up too much time because Gina and Jessica have some great stuff to talk to you about. So without any further delay, take it away.
Morning, everyone. There's a few friendlies in the room. My name's Gina Ramsey, and I'm the president of Pink Dog Digital. We're a full-service digital agency located here in Baltimore. My partner in crime is...
Hey everyone, my name is Jessica Watson. I am the president and creative director for Point Store Studio. We are based downtown in Baltimore. We do branding, website design, and digital marketing.
So two competitors can actually be friends in this town. That's how it works. This is going to be very casual and very laid back. If you have questions, fire them off. Jessica and I are just going to have a conversation, and you are part of the conversation. So.
Absolutely. So the questions that we're going to be answering today are some of the common ones that we get a lot in our line of work.
Yep.
So
without further ado, Jessica, what are some website trends on the rise for 2020?
I think this is probably a question that we can answer together.
Yep.
I come from more of a creative background, and Gina comes from more of the technical background, which is why we both have two different sides to this particular story. So a lot of things that I'm seeing going on for 2020 really is just like being more intentional about the content that you have on your website, why it's there, and what you want the user to do. So a lot of times people are thinking like, hey, I need all these pages and I need many words about the things that we do, but if you're not directing your customer as to what they should be doing on that page, then maybe that page should or should not be there.
I would agree. The other thing is, when working on your website design, moving forward, stop thinking about desktops. Start thinking about mobile.
Mobile first.
What does it look like on a phone? How easy is it to navigate on a phone? How far down do I have to scroll on a phone? Because you don't want your users getting carpal tunnel trying to find the information on your website.
If you do happen to have a lot of information on your website, they do have those sticky navigation bars now that stay there as the user is scrolling so they can continue to access different pages.
Right. You're also seeing something called parallax design, where the images are flowing through as you're scrolling up and down. It looks cool, but if it slows your site down, get rid of it, because speed is what you're going for. The faster your site loads, the faster people can access information, the more user appreciation you're going to have, and the more Google is going to rank your site higher on search.
Okay,
Follow-up question on that.
Sure.
Is that industry agnostic, or is that some types of businesses?
Industry agnostic.
It's industry agnostic. So mobile first is where Google is searching. Will rank you higher if you're doing well. Having fresh content on the site and consistently updating, which in some cases could just mean adding additional pages that relate to your specialties, or blog content as well, and then photos.
Additional pages, okay. Because I go to like a technical or an engineering or something that's very fussy by design, and to do that in a very simple, light, mobile version, I think would be challenging. But maybe that still needs to be the goal and the objective.
Yeah, challenging, but
you can use pillar pages to manage that, where you've got a page about a particular topic with multiple pages going off of those pages to drill down on the topics. The other thing with people like engineers, and I spoke to a group last night, read your words. Can you really tell what you do by your words? Because if you've got jargon and experience, blah blah blah, and customer service, yada yada yada, that does not say anything about who you are and what you do.
Is less more with respect to words? Like, what's the recommended amount?
So that's a good question, and it's a hard answer. For people, less is more. People are lazy. They don't want to read. In fact, they want video over words.
Yeah, how many tabs do we have open on our browsers right now?
Exactly, exactly. However, Google wants words. The latest thing that I've read is that Google's looking for 1,000 words a page. So it's a delicate balance and dance between giving people what they want and giving Google what they want.
What are the ways in which, like when I hear 1,000 words a page, first I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of words. Who's gonna read that? I don't even wanna read it. But something that you can do if you have all that content is to break it down with like some subcategories or subheadlines, bullet lists and things along those sorts. So that way you're kind of playing your content to multiple different users. You have the user who maybe will see a subheadline and want to dive in deeper. You have the user that's going to go to the bullet list, and then you have those that's going to read all the way through.
Okay.
So I think we're kind of leading in the direction of SEO,
Yep.
which is this thing that's super popular that everyone's talking about, but I think the term gets thrown around a lot. So what do I need to know about SEO? Like, what is it? How do you do it? Like, let's just get it all out in the open.
So I'm probably about to become very unpopular with maybe some of you in the room.
Should I leave?
No, you're good. You're
Okay.
good. Look, I know you.
Okay.
Search engine optimization is a term that is thrown around by a lot of people that want to take your money. And I mean that in all sincerity. If somebody's charging you $1,000 a month for SEO, you better find out what they're doing, because the greater likelihood is they're not doing anything other than collecting a check from you. SEO is, you build the website, metadata, page names, page titles, all that stuff that happens on the back end of the site that says to Google, hey Google, here's this website and here's this page on this website and this is what it's about. Once that's done, unless there's a Google algorithm change, that doesn't need to be done again. Oftentimes what I see are people trying to charge for creating backlinks, which is part of SEO, but it's not SEO. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Am I explaining this properly?
I think you are. So if I have a new website and I want to optimize it for my users, like what are some of the basics that I need to do? Like if I'm not trying to hire someone to just collect $1,000 from me every month.
Right. So the best example I can give is, for those of you that I hope know what an HVAC contractor is, back in the day, you could write one page about HVAC, index it in Google, you're good. Now, you need a page about heating, about ventilating, about air conditioning, and then you need to go and tell Google through the use of your metadata, your page names, your page titles, that this page is about heating, that this page is about ventilating. So having proper content, having the proper meta descriptions, page names, page titles, set up your robots.txt. These are things that you should have someone do for you that knows what they're doing. Because oftentimes it's done very improperly. You've got 800 keyword phrases and a page name and a page title, but the page is only about heating. Well, you're never going to rank. So be thoughtful and map out what all your pages are about. Map out what the primary keyword phrase is. Map out what the description of the page is. Make sure that that's telling your story.
Yeah, sometimes when we're working with our clients and they come to us and they say, I need a website, I do what we call a goal-oriented sitemap, where we really use a whiteboard per se, and we say homepage, and then we say about, services, like process, contact us, etc. And then I have them map out what are the primary and secondary goals for each page. So that means if you could hold a user's mouse, hand over their mouse, how would you direct them? What is it that you want them to do? So of course, maybe the primary goal is I want them to contact me, or I want them to set up a free consultation with my business, or to give us a call, or to fill out a particular form. but not everyone may be ready to do that. So what's the secondary goal for that page if someone has read it, but they're not ready to commit yet? Maybe the secondary goal is that you're leading them to an article in your blog that relates to the content on the page, like a case study, for example. Maybe it's that you're leading them to sign up for a newsletter or for social media. So just as Gina is talking about being intentional with those keywords and titles, H1s, H2, and metadata, which sound like jargon per se, but really what we're trying to say is you need to be intentional with every aspect of your website. So if it doesn't have a purpose, then it really shouldn't be there.
Which leads, I think, cleanly to the next question. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the website design? Is it the SEO?
I think they both come at the same time.
I would agree.
If you're designing but not thinking about how your website is going to be found or how people are going to engage with it so they can access the particular services or products that you offer, then you're going to end up having this great car with no gas in it. You're going to come back to whoever designed that website and say, why isn't this website giving me a return on my investment?
And again, I may make a lot of people in the room hate me. Make sure that whoever you're working with has experience in both design and SEO. Oftentimes I see people hire folks who say they can do something, but they really can't. And as a consumer, you should investigate some of their other clients. Where are those other people ranking in search? How are those sites built? Do they have proper page names? Are they utilizing black hat techniques like plumbers in Baltimore, plumbers in Towson, plumbers in Timonium? If somebody says they can do it, it's up to you to check that they can, because my experience, and I suspect yours as well, is that there's either they do really well at design, they do really well at SEO, but they don't do both really well. Questions from anyone?
Yeah, when you're talking to a client and they're like, well, I just want to be on the first page of Google. Like, that's the most important thing to me. If somebody's looking for, like you said, plumber, how do I get on the first page? Can you get me there? What's your typical response to that?
To a plumber, ain't ever gonna happen. Unless you're a plumber in Arbutus, I might be able to get you on the first page of Google. But the greater likelihood of getting a generic keyword phrase like plumbers Baltimore, unless you're paying for it, is slim to none. Right now, particularly with voice search, it's a longer tail keyword phrase. Who's the best plumber in my area? Something like that. But you can't go out and grab up realtors, plumbers, lawyers, and get you on the first page of Google anymore. It's almost impossible. So I set the expectation with my clients, depending on what type of business they are, up front, that we're gonna be able to do this, this, and this, but this is never gonna happen. And if people are promising to get you on the first page of Google, it's an advertisement, 100%. Agree?
So if, let's say, not, getting on the first page of Google, just like not in our wheelhouse, what is a reasonable goal that I should be asking, a potential vendor to help me with SEO?
So I always take the pebble in a pond approach, focus on where you are, and then let that circle continue to move out. Create content to support what it is that you do in the areas that you do it. Use case studies, articles, blog posts. Use local SEO. If you guys aren't using your Google My Business page right now, you're missing out on a huge opportunity for local opt. It is.
Can you see my questions?
It is probably the single most important SEO factor for your local business. If that's not being utilized, you're missing out.
Okay, so Google My Business is not a catchy phrase. It is something new that Google has put out there to kind of help you capture some very basic things that can be happening with respect to how you're found, what your users know about you, etc. So it's actually something you have to sign up for, which means if you don't have Google My Business, for your business yet. And I think that's whether or not you have a website, to be
Oh,
honest.
100%.
It's giving you the power to put information out there about your company, as opposed to people just guessing what your hours are, where your physical address is, what it looks like, or some photos that represent you. You can kind of have the front run and center for that.
Does everyone know what Google My Business is? No, okay. So if you go in and you type in Pink Dog Digital, all this other stuff is gonna come up here. But on the right-hand side of a Google search page, there's a box with images, the name of your business, the address, your Google star ranking for reviews, your hours, a description about your business. Most recently, they've allowed you to post articles and for people to ask questions. It's becoming an engagement tool for people that know your brand.
Yeah, and I think that when you post, it's almost like a story to some extent, and that it doesn't stay forever.
Correct, it's only there for 7 days.
Yeah, so you now have just like a little bit more, I guess, control over how you're searched or how you're viewed by someone who is searching. And by the way, that's free. Google just put it out there. It's definitely going to be on the rise for 2020 and beyond. And I think it's a really unique way to engage with potential customers. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, I think you should.
And you should download the app to your phone, because the only way that you can be notified of questions coming in immediately is on that app, and you can respond on the app as well. I had a client, furniture store in Baltimore City. We posted a picture for a Labor Day sale. They had 518,000 views on their Google My Business page. So it is a powerful, powerful tool, and that is gonna help that plumber in Arbutus get found and allow that pebble in a pond to spread out. Anything?
Yeah, so one of the biggest algorithm changes that is most noted for with Google was when they switched how they handled searching for websites to be mobile first. Mm-hmm. So they were ranking sites that were mobile friendly over sites that were just hanging out there that wasn't. I think it pretty much changed the way search happens, and also really cost people a lot of money if their site wasn't responsive.
It's really hurt small business from what I've seen, because people have developed websites and then all of a sudden Google changes this algorithm. They've just done their website desktop and it's not mobile friendly, and now they've got to redo it entirely. And I've run into several sites recently that, despite the fact they look like they're mobile friendly, are not being recognized by Google as mobile friendly. So I would encourage all of you to Google mobile friendly test and put your URL in there and see if you are in fact ranking that way. Because if you're not, you are not going to be found in search. 0% of that. And it's important because people aren't using desktops and laptops as much as they're using their phone. My clients, roughly 60 to 68% of their traffic is coming in from mobile these days. And mobile is also tablets, keep that in mind. So we know what Google's looking for. What do you think are must-haves on every page of a website?
Your face, front and center. Just kidding.
Not mine.
Okay, so must-haves on every page of a website will probably be just like the easiest way for someone to contact you. So whatever that goal is, if they're reaching out for a consultation or email or social media, etc., those need to be like incredibly easily accessible.
I would agree. However,
She didn't tell me she was going to disagree, you guys.
there is some buzz that quick forms on websites can get penalized. So you have to be careful with how those quick forms are placed. Same thing with pop-ups. If you have a pop-up on your website, a couple things may happen. Number one, if you have an SSL certificate on your site, the pop-up may void that SSL certificate. Google may penalize you if it's not easy enough to leave that pop-up. And the same thing with quick forms. If they're constantly floating in front of your face and you can't see the
Oh,
content.
I definitely didn't mean
No,
float,
I
like
know.
floater.
I know, but I just gotta make it real clear. If it feels obnoxious, Google thinks it is, and you're gonna get in trouble for it. I agree, clear calls to action are necessary, but they have to be tasteful, which is why you hire people like Jessica to do it.
Please don't do any pop-ups on your website.
Yeah, I agree. But
I
there's,
would appreciate it
yeah,
personally.
I know, I agree. Again, they're hard and mobile.
How about a bot? If you have a bot, do you get penalized for that? Or like somebody?
Like a chatbot?
Yeah.
No.
No, because that's part of customer service, customer experience.
Okay.
Does everyone know what SSL certificates, the security certificate is? Understand?
No, I'm getting a lot of crickets. It's when your site flips from HTTP to HTTPS, which means your site is secure. If you don't know, pull your site up in Google or in Chrome, and in the top left-hand corner of the browser bar, it's either going to say not secure or it will say nothing. If you are not secure, get an SSL on your site because Google is penalizing sites that don't have SSL certificates attached to them.
They are, it's really annoying. But a lot of your hosting providers do have SSL certificates. Some of them are making them standard with their hosting. Other things like, I think like Squarespace, et cetera, already rope it in
Yep.
as well too. So just something else to be mindful of because if you don't, like Google definitely has a pop-up that says like, you can't enter this site and it could be just like the dry cleaner site.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah, an SSL, mobile friendly, fast load speed. Those are the things you should check first on your website before anything else. What else do we have to talk about? We got 20 minutes to kill. So let's talk a little bit about load speed because that's the new thing. Google is constantly coming up with the next thing you have to do to your website. And load speed has been part of that SSL, responsive design, load speed. How fast does your site load once people hit it?
Is there a way that I could check that out?
There is. You can Google page load speed, and it will tell you. And I will tell you that if it's over 2 seconds,
You have a problem.
big problem, and you should reach out to your developer. Things like compressing images are big. Caching is a big thing with load speed. All of the tips and tricks and tools that can be employed to increase your load speed should be, because if you're not, your competitor is, and they're gonna find them before they find you. I highly recommend that you look at that.
Yeah, I think typically when people search now, they're doing the tabbed browser approach.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not up in a couple seconds, they've already moved on to the next tab, which could be your competitor.
Right, right. And all of these tools are available for you to check. Don't rely on your web developer to go check it because they're not. They've got all kind of clients, and it may be that when they launched the site it was fast, but now you've added 25 blogs that they don't know about, and you've been loading images that are full size, and you've crushed the load speed. Your developer doesn't know that you've done that. So you check on your kids every day when they're at school, check on your website every few days too. That's your baby. That's another tool to get you into the next sale. So you should be mindful of it and work towards that.
Question on that. So these different, call them rules or call them algorithms, whatever the Google has, is that something that they strive to make very public knowledge, or is it a bit of a black box where, because I would think it would behoove Google to make this stuff obvious, but I don't know that it's outside of experts who live in that space.
Great question.
How do you find that stuff?
Great question. In 2018, Google had 8 to 9 algorithm changes per day. Per day. They do not tell you what it is unless it's a big one, and then they don't even tell you. They sort of imply that something is important. With the ones that Jess and I have been talking about, the SSL, they launched that long before they announced it, probably 18 months before they came out and said, yeah, we're now, at first it was, well, we might give you extra points for having an SSL. Then it was dead silence, and then it was like, now we're gonna penalize you for not having an SSL. Then it was, we're moving towards mobile first indexing. But these little teeny itty bitty changes that occur in the background, it's impossible to keep up, even if you're in our space.
Yeah.
I read God knows how many blogs every day, and I still can't keep up with everything that's going on. I just try and find the big ones. Is that?
It does, it's discouraging, but I also have a conversation about what's the logic of Google, why they do it, unless they're just biasing towards large companies versus the small, but.
It's not.
Another subject for another day. Maybe.
There is a logic to it. The logic is they want to level the playing field, and I'll use a ridiculous example. But back in the day, if you put Oprah or sex in your metadata, I don't care if you were a plumber in Arbutus, you were going to get found. People have been trying to scam the system for years, and so what they're trying to do is make it a very level playing field. Unfortunately, big companies have big dollars, and they can produce the kind of content that Jess talked about on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so they're getting favored position over the plumber in Arbutus who's not, they build a 6-page website and they never go back to it. So, anything to add there?
No, I think you got it. I think you covered it.
Cool. So,
but if I am, sorry, I know you said
all good.
okay, but I am a small business, so how can I compete
Up. Are you really, next question. Should I invest a lot of money in my website if I'm just starting out? If I'm a small business, what's the right number?
Oh, that's so tough. I don't know if there's like an overarching right number for everyone. I actually don't think that you should invest a whole lot of money in your first website if you're just starting out. And I say that because so much is going to change. And it's a little bit of a learning process. And a lot of times, like, small businesses will throw a lot of money into that website. Like, we're just starting out, but here's everything we got. Let's get it up there. Let's do it. And then maybe 6 months or a year from that point, you really start to narrow in your focus. You have a good rhythm. Your site doesn't represent who you are anymore or where you've pivoted. And then you can't get, like, there's no refund on that website. It's just out there. So I recommend starting small.
Certainly with
and
a
seeing
start.
how the shoe fits,
Certainly with a startup. Websites are becoming more and more affordable. There's more and more platforms, Jim, that can be that can be used to create websites. I'm not a proponent of GoDaddy site builder on your own, whacking it together. I recommend hiring somebody to build it. I always say to my clients, I'm not a photographer. I'm not going to take my own photography. I'm going to hire a photographer. So don't you try and do your own website. If your business is photography, she didn't. I'm just picking on her because she's a friend. Hire someone, but be reasonable about it. And please talk to several people. I just met with a woman, I don't even understand. She was paying a web developer $1,500 a month for hosting and maintenance on a website that they charged her $20,000 for, and it was 6 pages. But she didn't know what she didn't know. And I see it all the time, people throwing money at web developers and SEO specialists and PPC people because they get razzle-dazzled by the jargon, they make the big investment, and then they're like, what am I getting out of it? So I agree. Start small and build it intelligently and let it grow intelligently.
Is there a place for those types of websites, like your templated, like Constant Contact has like website builder, but then it also incorporates automatic, marketing automation, emails, things like that. Is there like a time and place for those types, or is it more just like?
I do not think that there is, primarily because the SEO opportunities are very limited. So, there's a lot of young people in the room. The Yellow Pages. If you took out a full page,
What? I don't know what that is.
it's my point. That's my point. Exactly. If you took years ago, if you took out a full page ad in the Yellow Pages, but nobody could find it, they never delivered the books. You were spending a lot of money on smoke and mirrors. If no one can find your website, it could be the most inexpensive or expensive website in the world, but if no one can find it, it's not doing you a lot of good. And most of those Constant Contact, GoDaddy platforms have very, very limited SEO opportunities.
Okay, so what about the next step up, like the Wixes and the Squarespaces? What are your thoughts on those?
I think that those are probably good starter sites.
Yeah.
I would, if I was a small business and I had a very limited budget, I think Wix and Squarespace are good opportunities. But if you really want to grow your business, you need to look at a WordPress, in some cases custom solution if you're a shopping cart, Shopify. There's, like Jess said, baby steps, but don't baby step it.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
So I specialize in small business, web design, and branding development, and a lot of my clients, when they first started out, they got their own Wix website, and they're like, oh, I can do this myself, I can save some money.
Yep.
And then the website looks like somebody who's not a web designer.
Right.
So even though they say like, oh, I'm Sarah Kloss, and I do this, and I make my own website, it's very tricky to make, unless you know what you're doing. It's really hard to replicate that, even though they have the templates there.
Right.
And when you use the templates, it's the same template that everybody else is using.
Yep.
So even if you want to stay in Wix, you can still find a designer who's really affordable to stay within that platform until you're ready to spend the big dollars, like they would say.
Right. Well, so it goes back to my photography example. I'm not taking pictures. That is not happening. Even in a Wix or a lower level platform, I would still hire someone, because once you get in there and you start playing around, it's going to look like you're playing around.
That's actually a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big turnoff when I go to a website. It's supposed to be like high-end, I don't know, closet designer, right? But it says Wix.com,
Yep.
closets, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
High-end, but you're not.
and that's a great example of what not to do. I have a client / charity case that I'm working with that they hired a new executive director. He couldn't figure out how to access the old website, so he went out and did a Wild Apricot website, and it's url.wildapricot.com, and people are like, I don't know what that is, I'm not going in there, and it's hurting the SEO on the original domain name. So I go back to, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Hire someone to do it. It's
So
your business.
They're competing with themselves, essentially.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're competing with themselves in search. So if you have a business that you are serious about, you've got to invest in it. You're going to pay insurance. You may have office space. You may have employees. You may have a lot of things. If you're going to invest in that, invest in this. Because think about it. Your telephone, your salespeople, and the web. Those are your salespeople. Those are your sales opportunities. And if your web presence is bad or people can't find it, you're taking away potentially 1/3 of your opportunity for new business.
Yeah. So within our website, we kind of give a little bit of information, and then to get the really quality information, they got to go through our sales funnel. So they're blocked from. They can't get to our library of great content. They can view our good content. What are your thoughts on that strategy? Should we be offering the great content without them having to come through the sales funnel? Because we want to capture their information. I mean, sure, Google Analytics will tell us who's coming to our site, and we're able to track it that way. and then retarget them on social. But my fear is we're losing business because people can't get to the great content without answering 5 to 7 questions.
Are you seeing a bounce rate, like, of people coming to that maybe gated content and then leaving the page without filling out the form or filling it out partially?
No, I mean, so our clientele is mostly seniors. The website for us is really more of a branding tool. You know, we want people to know who we are. Our B2B partners come to the website. They're not going to go through the funnel, but if we meet a new B2B partner today, they might hit the website. Oh, okay, we know them, we know what they do. So the website's not a big source of business. We're not seeing a huge bounce back, but I fear that as we grow the website, as we grow the business, we are preventing people from seeing some pretty quality stuff, and is that a good strategy?
So anecdotally, I had a client who had that type of system where they had to fill out all this information before they could get deeper, and their bounce rate was extraordinarily high, 80%, 90%.
We're very limited in what the fields that we're asking, though. We're only asking literally basic name, number, you know.
Most people
address.
will bounce off of a phone number.
Yeah, they will.
They don't want to put in a phone number. What I typically recommend my clients who want to develop a sales funnel and do lead capture like that is to offer a piece of premium content with minimal information, email address, first name, whatever that is. Let them get that premium content and then put them into that sales funnel on the back end, and then serve them up premium content through your email marketing system on a calendar basis. But if you can entice them with a piece of premium content up front, they're going to be more likely, and you see this all the time, 10 tip, and I'm not your industry, but 10 tips to weight loss. Download your free guide now. 100-point checklist on SEO. Download your free guide now. Give them something for nothing, and then utilize that information and limit what is required for them to fill out on that form.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely say name, email. Something else that I've appreciated, especially for B2B type services, is being able to identify that I'm just looking versus I'm someone that's ready to buy or purchase or engage or someone call me. So that way I get into at least the right sales funnel versus like someone immediately contacting me saying, hey, you downloaded our guide. And I was like, oh, I was just looking.
Right. And actually, I misspoke. It wasn't phone number. One of the fields is it's email and
Email,
Yeah.
Because the phone number is more intrusive than we're trying to be. We're trying to be, obviously less intrusive, but to capture,
Yeah, some basic stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
You
absolutely.
also want to make sure that it's still searchable by Google.
Yeah,
So
correct.
make sure that it's not, because otherwise, all those
Yeah.
topics that you have in the background,
They're gone by the wayside,
So we have about 5 minutes, 3 technically, but I don't think Larry will kill us if we go over. Jim?
So, content marketing, can you talk about how that fits into kind of the website structure and the website, the idea of pillars and content clusters and things like that, and how that might work into kind of a long-term strategy?
It's a hell of a lot more than 3 minutes, Jim, and you know it.
That's a dissertation.
Maybe you could touch on it.
Yeah, so
Touch the surface.
let's just start at the top and say that content is king. You need to be adding to your website interesting, relevant, and authoritative content on a weekly basis, in my opinion. It should be at least 1,000 words, and it can be in the form of blog articles, blogs, articles, white papers, case studies. It can be whatever you need it to be, but it needs to be interesting, it needs to be authoritative, it needs to be relevant to your business. If I have a client that yesterday wrote something about a Smith Island cake, she does focus groups. I'm like, what are you doing? This is not doing anything for your business.
Maybe she really likes cake.
She does, but it's not a thing.
Sometimes when I'm trying to think about like what my strategy is going to be as a business marketing, I do look at what my competitors are doing just to see how often they are putting content up there. Because when I hear like once a week, oh my God, who has the time to be like?
That you don't, you have people
That's
like
why-
me.
So if you're like maybe not at a point where you're able to give that off to someone awesome like me or Gina, it's always good just to see like what your competitors are doing and try to match it. Also, consistency is king as well. So if you're only able to put up, I don't know, 2 pieces a month, so don't. Okay, so if you're only able to put up like 2 pieces a month, then just make sure you're doing that consistently so your clients know what to expect, your audience knows what to expect.
Video as opposed to like a text blog content, video is better, or as long as the content is being edited?
I like to have video and then the transcript, just because Google can't read a video.
Yeah.
But you should always put your video on a YouTube channel, optimize it on the channel, and then use the embed code on the website. 2 reasons: you can potentially optimize the website, the video individually in search, and load speed.
Yeah, don't put the whole video on your website, you guys.
That will crush your soul
Yeah, and crush the souls of others.
of others, because
Yeah,
they have
the
to wait
whole
for the
world just
load.
implode.
Yeah, it's
for
a
sure.
bad thing.
Should the video be on like a Vimeo through the website so it doesn't slow down, so it's not?
Yeah,
so you're
that's-
using either Vimeo or YouTube, optimizing it through there, and then taking that code snippet and dropping it into your website.
And video is huge. If you don't have a video, I would consider that a huge investment towards your brand in 2020. Get a sizzle reel on your homepage. Just bite the bullet and find somebody. We did one really inexpensively. Everyone on my team videoed themselves, and then I hired an editor to put it all together in a pretty package, and it looks like it was professionally shot. And that, I think it cost me $250.
Yeah, so there's ways around it.
Who's that editor?
You're like, hey.
It would be my son-in-law. No, I've got I can get, yeah, his name's Justin Beckenheimer.
Okay.
I think his website's J. Sean Beck, but I mean, Beckenheimer's not gonna be a stretch in search. I think you'll find him. So, I think we're done. We're happy to talk afterwards if anybody has any specific questions.
Yeah,